was Solar by Miles Davis, composed in 1951 and has become a touchstone standard for many a jazz musician. You just type that in on iTunes and you will see the complete registry of important jazz musicians that have recorded that tune. Interestingly enough, the first few bars of that tune are inscripted on Miles's tombstone. And a little note about Miles Davis. This is trivia, show business trivia, but I actually opened for Miles Davis many years ago, not too long before he passed, as a comedian. They needed somebody to kill time because they knew Miles was going to be late. And somehow somebody called me, and I went there and killed time and was a sacrificial comedian. So, there you have it, folks. That was Solar. Welcome once again to this latest installment of A Rebel Without Applause, the Bill Calmanson podcast. If not coming to you from my movie studio apartment in the Wood of the Holly under the sign overlooking the enchanted land of law. But now, interestingly enough, that recording comes to you from the land of Morocco. That's right, folks, here in my little pension room with Saeed, my new Moroccan friend and guide, and he's showing me this country. I'm about halfway through the trip in a small mountain village in the Middle Atlas Mountains called Ifrane, and today I had a magical adventure in the mountains on a Berber horse. And we happened to see all the monkeys that inhabited the cedar forest high above the Moroccan fruited plain. Yesterday I was in Fez, which is really was an interesting contrast because today I was in the solitude of the cedar forest and nature, and then yesterday in the maze, the warren, the den of alleyways connected to alleyways it would take a lifetime to find your way out of, inside the walled ancient city of Fez. And Fez is a feast for the eyes, for the senses, for the palate, and for anybody with a sense of history. Fez was founded more than, 1,200 years ago. Originally, it had been inhabited it was founded, I guess, by Idris II, and you'll be hearing more about it on this podcast. But I wanted to honor the pattern of my Rebel Without a Cause broadcast, podcast, whatever you want to call it, with an opening tune, and this time my Licorice was hopefully alive with some squeaks to keep it real. Yes, with Miles Davis's Solar. And I'm here with a little bit of quiet time before my next little adventure as I journey into the Moroccan soul here. It's been a wild adventure so far. I began my trip in the port city of Tangier, where my lovely cousin lives, or she's from there. Actually, it's my cousin by marriage, Yael, and her wonderful husband, my cousin, Jeffrey. So I had an opportunity to spend a few days with them and tried to immerse myself in the world of Paul Bowles. Famously, he wrote The Sheltering Sky there, and he was, I guess, ground zero for artists and expats that included, Ginsberg and the Beats and many others that came through there. So I had an opportunity to really feel the town of Tangier, which is definitely one foot in Africa and another foot in Europe. It is still to this very day a home to many expats and Europeans, French in particular. The French, as by way of history, were the colonial overseers of Morocco and Tangier, for that matter, up until 1956, when a revolution occurred and they were expelled, and Mohammed V, the king, assumed leadership of the country, and the French quietly made their retreat back to their homeland. A good movie to see if you're interested in French colonial issues is The Battle for Algiers. Now, of course, Algiers is not Morocco. Their histories are somewhat different, but it gives you an incredible feeling for the Kasbah, the Medina, the walled ancient cities where life continues as it did for centuries. There's a really cool Medina and Kasbah in Algiers. The Kasbah, which means wall, overlooks the ocean, and from a vantage point on, I guess, would be the northeast corner of the Kasbah. You can see the Straits of Gibraltar and the little slice that's left of the Mediterranean, the portal, the aperture, if you will, through which wooden ships sailed and conquered the vast globe, where the first conceptions of Earth's rotunditude, its roundness, those conceptions were first confirmed by sailing ships that left there, first by Vasco da Gama, the great Portuguese explorer who rounded the Horn of Africa and extended the Portuguese sailing empire all the way to Macau, which is in China. And it gave us Magellan, who some years later, after Columbus, offered up living proof at the expense of his own life that the earth was indeed round. It was through that portal that, of course, Columbus and Cortez and sailing ships and battleships and submarines passed. So I felt very much immersed in the and just history, a history that you can't feel in California, but you can feel on the coast of Tangier. So until later, I'm going to tune out and get back to my travels and my life and my thoughts, which I will be sharing with you as time goes by. Yesterday, we made it to the beautiful Blue City at the foot of the Rif Mountains, Chefchaouen. We visited Chefchaouen, the Blue City, painted blue because the ingenuity of the Jewish arrivals who felt that blue would keep the city cooler. And indeed, it was a very cool city with a tightly held Medina, above which were these beautiful mountains. But now we've traversed out of the Rif Mountains down into the not-so-fruited plain of olivos, olives, and wheat. And after a great lunch of fresh lamb, we are now at the site of a Roman city called Volubilis. So I'm sitting here at the edge of a Roman road with the columns on my left and a gate looking to the north. Apparently this is the Tangier gate. So this was the last leg of the long journey from Volubilis to Tangier, carrying the precious merchandise, that being olive oil, which was sent to all reaches of the Mediterranean. And this is an outpost of the Roman Empire, one of the farthest outposts, at least, into Africa. And it's quite a developed place here, above which I can see the city from which Islam first gained traction in what is Morocco. And it was there that the original kingdom, Idris, gained his prominence because he was the one that spread Islam from the Middle East into Morocco. As I turn to my left, I can see the homes and stone walls that are crumbling here beside me, but it's very clear. It's almost like, condominium residences, one by one, with little stone alleyways and pillars and pools. And you can see where the water trickled down, and they managed the water to keep themselves alive and grow the trees. So the city's gone. The Romans that cultivated this place are gone. But the olive trees aren't. They're here everywhere. So the place still is doing its work. It's just under new administration, Moroccan administration. And prior to 1956, it was under French administration. But now not so. It's independent here. We'll be pulling out from Volubilis momentarily and heading into the most ancient of world cities, that being Fez, with its huge medinas, alleyways and warrens, synagogues, mosques. So I'm standing here on the north edge, correct?
Yes.
Yes, on the north edge of the Medina here in Fez. I have one question for you, because you always refer to, he was the first king of Morocco, or he introduced...
The second.
No, but this one was the first, Idrissa et Sahun.
First, he was in Moulay Idris Rahun, and the son, Moulay Idris II, came to Fez and founded Fez in 808.
808. So you mentioned, when did people get an idea that Morocco was its own country?
It
In
was
other words,
what?
that Morocco was its own country, that a national idea for Morocco, that was before Idrissa, before the arrival of Islam. People already had an idea of Morocco as a country. Is that correct? Do you understand my question? So you said he was the first king.
The father, not this one.
The father was the first king of Morocco.
The first king in the Islamic time.
Yes, but
But before there were kings and queens from the Berbers.
and
Like Dahia, for example, she was a queen before the arrival of Islam. And when she knew that Muslims were coming to Morocco, she thought that Muslims are coming so as to grab the good things from Morocco, not to spread their religion and so on. What she did, she burnt all the fields in Morocco and said, you will take nothing from Morocco. But Islam came to Morocco
Not to
with the
take.
idea to give, not to take. To give Islam, to make people know about religion and so on. But it was not the idea to grab the good things from the land.
so people had an idea. There were Moroccan kings before Islam.
Of course. And they
Right.
were all Berbers.
They were Berbers.
Berbers.
Okay. And Berbers still live here in...
Not in Fes. Fes, I said people from Andalusia, people from Tunisia. But outside Fes, we find mountains. Most the Berbers are living on mountains. Why? Because in the time of the Romans used to exploit the Berbers. So they used to serve them, to take. They used to work for them without any money, without any income. They used to punish them severely. So they all took refuge on mountains. That's why we find the Berbers on mountains until now.
Till today.
Yeah, most of them.
Most of them are in the mountains. They're not really in the city with cultural
There
identification.
are some because of people who would like to study in university. So now we find some people who move to cities, in big cities.
Great. Thank you. Interesting. Great. Wow. So I'm standing here on the north side overlooking the giant Medina. This is probably the biggest Medina in the world.
In the world, yes.
In the
it's
world.
9,999 streets.
Wow. 9,900.
Nine-
Almost one more street. They'd have 10,000 streets.
Yeah, so it's the unique Medina, the biggest one in the world, in which you can walk without using a car inside it because the streets are very narrow.
Right, of
labyrinths
course.
and-
Yeah. So, wow. It's really incredible to be here at the cradle of so much history, so much culture. The whole idea of the university as a place where you could go and learn and study and take a time out from the world of commerce really had its origins right here in Fez. The idea that you could just go and study
Yeah.
in a place dedicated for that
Yeah.
was really got its start here.
Yeah.
Interesting. And what was the name? It's hard for me to say the words. The name of the oldest university?
The Qarawiyyin University. Qarawiyyin.
The Qarawiyyin University. So I went to UC Berkeley University in California. Much newer, not quite as old as
And it was built by a lady.
this university.
Yes, Fatima Al-Fihriya.
Fatima Qaria. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm with Nadia, a beautiful guide. She's a brilliant lady. She knows everything there is to know about Fez. With me, Saeed, and we're standing. Tell me exactly where we are standing behind the mausoleum.
Now we are behind the mausoleum Mullah Idris II because the Idrisids, there was Mullah Idris I who came to Morocco in 789 and he married a Berber lady called Kenza, and when Kenza was in her 7th month of pregnancy, his enemy in Iraq knew where he was, so he sent him somebody to kill him. When he was killed, the Berbers proclaimed the coming baby as king of Morocco. He was also named Mullah Idris, of course, the second. So Mullah Idris the second came to the plain of Sais to found his capital that he named Fes because people offered him a golden axe. Axe in Arabic is Fes. So Mullah Idris founded his capital and he settled in Fes. he founded also his palace where he lived, and after his death, he was buried in his palace where we are now.
And so we're standing directly behind the mausoleum, where his body has laid in state for over 1,000 years. 1,200 years. He's been resting there. And I see right there a number.
Years.
One
Of decorating.
132.
1323.
So the decoration that I'm looking at right now was completed in
14th century by the Merinids.
14th century in 1323. So it's relatively new. Over 150 years before Columbus got to America, and long before Columbus was born, and all of which here lies in the back alley of what is and was the center of the civilized universe in Fez. And we're having a fabulous day here, and I wanted to let you folks hear from Nadia exactly the story. And please be careful of scented perfume. Always check. You don't want to get poisoned. It could happen to you. So with me again is my lovely, highly educated, brilliant tour guide Nadia, and we are standing where we're standing on the south side of
on the south side of the Medina.
and we can stare across to the north where we stood earlier, and between us is the
Rif Mountains on the right and the Middle Atlas on the left.
and the Middle Atlas on the left. Now I know where does the snow? I know that the Middle Atlas, the Atlas Mountains,
No, further, not here, not in this one.
right,
Much more further.
much more further to the east, right? To the east.
Ifran, the town called Ifran. It's about 1 hour from Fez.
And we're looking down on the incredibly ancient and clustered metropolis that is Fez here in Morocco. It's my second view, and you can see the oldest university on earth. And I want to get the pronunciation right again. What was the name?
Karawin Mosque and University.
Yeah. And tell me again, just for the people, and to help me, when exactly that was founded.
It was founded in 859.
859 AD. That was when this university was established here in Fez, and at that time, Islamic culture was also the center of intellectual culture, artistic culture, scientific culture, the birth of algebra, mathematics. All these sciences got their origins and births right here beneath our feet at this university. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct, because many famous personalities were educated in this university, like Maimonides, who was a Jewish philosopher, which means that the university was not only for Muslims but also for non-Muslims. Alveros, Ibn Sina, Ibn Tufail, Ibn Khaldun, he was a historian. Sylvester, he was a pope also. So many people came from all over the world to study in the University Karawin.
In the University Karawin. And the mathematical sciences got their origins and beginnings here. So in the year 800, 900, while Maimonides and the Islam were basically setting an example for social progress and science, 1,000 miles north in Europe in the Middle Ages, they were still living in their own garbage, right? So we're looking at really what was the center of all progress and civilization on earth beneath our feet, and the city that lives and breathes this very day, and that being Fez, with the two Medinas divided in half and surrounded by one wall to the, northeast. To the west is the king's castle, quite large. And what's the name of the river again that flows under?
Wad al-Jawahir.
Wad al-Jawahir, the river that flows through beautiful Medina here on a gorgeous August day. It's sunny and hot. Nadia's to my right, my friend and Moroccan brother Saeed to my left. I stand in the center and I overlook the fruited plain beneath the city where the agriculture and the olives and everything grows and feeds this city. So here we are on a rebel without applause.
خطرتيش على بالك تسأل عني وعيني مجفية النوم يا مصغرني ده اللي قلبي بيسألني يغير أحوالي ما قطعتش على بال وعلى بال ده انا قلبي بيسألني يغير احوالي انا ويقول لي بقى يعني ما قطعتش على بال امال غلاوي تربك في الحنان